going to be talking about Russia and who they like, guys, because it's important we talk about Russia. Don't talk about any other issues. Let's talk about impeachment. Let's talk about Russia. But Daniel, I think Russia likes somebody again. I mean, this is like a follow-up to the story I think we talked about, but what? Who?
It's the follow-up to the never-ending story of
Russia?
Yes, of Russia. Remember, in America should base it's if America and Russia are XY variables, Russia needs to be the X variable. It is insane to even insinuate that America, the hyperpower of the world, has the most power as a hyperpower, and everything is Russia's fault. You know, a country that has a smaller GDP than South Korea,
than California,
that has like nukes sitting around, but that's not really useful unless it's, you know, very not useful.
But who does Russia like?
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, let's actually, we have a video for you guys. Paul,
oh boy,
hit it.
And new data from the Foreign Policy Research Institute shows that Russia has already chosen its favorite and least favorite Democratic candidates. After analyzing more than 1,700 stories from Russian state media outlets, researchers found that Tulsi Gabbard, not so surprisingly, received the most favorable mentions among the 2020 field. And joining me now is Clint Watts, former FBI agent and research fellow, and he's the research fellow responsible for the report. So Clint, we were just talking a little bit about it in the break. So Tulsi is getting the most positive focus.
Yeah, out of all the mentions that we've looked at, she doesn't receive an overwhelming amount, but what she does is far more positive than what we've seen of the other candidates.
And what are the mentions like? Like, talking about her in what way?
Mostly in terms of her rhetoric that she says about the U.S. government, its war stance, that it is aggressive or imperialist. That's sort of the nature of it. That the U.S. should stay out of places like Syria, which matches what Russia wants. That Russia does not want the U.S. in Syria anymore. And that really we should withdraw from the world, which is a message that Russia wants Americans saying to Americans. So it's a great opportunity for them.
Yeah, she uses the term regime change wars a lot, which is a common term, in my understanding of the way that Russia talks about the United States.
If you listen to that rhetoric, you would think that the U.S. started a war in Syria, which did not happen. That was part of the Arab Spring. If you remember, if we rewind all of this, that war has been going on for so long now that was part of the Tunisian, Libyan, Egyptian, Syria, Yemen. There are many uprisings that happened during that time. The U.S. didn't start those.
So now let's talk about the person who gets the most negative mentions, and that is Joe Biden.
Yes.
I want to break down a few things. Like right now, the way that they have it set up, it's by percentage, and it's very misleading. So I'm going to read across. So I'm going to read it like right now, like Biden is 300 key. Look at the mentions. It's 331 mentions, 3%, 44%, 45. You guys can see that on the screen. I'm going to read it to you with converted numbers. So it'll just go from left to right, and then I'll go row down, row down, row down. It's 10, 146, 175, 39, 126, 39, 17, 96, 47, 11, 55, 29, 28, 27, and 6. So they're really organizing this in such a way to, again, just like we talked in the previous story, the question is, how can we show Tulsi Gabbard is working with the Russians? I know we'll look through all of the stuff that Sputnik and RT did and say that's what we go with. So they end up with this 46% favorable for Tulsi Gabbard, even though Bernie Sanders has more favorability. She only has 27. She's barely even mentioned. She's the least mentioned of anyone. It's the smallest sample size of all these people. Joe Biden has 146 neutral mentions. I mean, it's like
they can't do addition and subtraction, multiplication and division.
It's that they're doing it in such a way. It's just the saddest thing ever, because they are literally going with the point of guilt by association, and also with the point of Russia is, I mean, implicitly, Russia is a power we actually have to worry about. Again, Russia has the GDP of less than South Korea. It's not a real threat. It just has a lot of land with a few people living in a couple cities.
But it's a scary, good Saturday morning cartoon villain, okay?
No, that's exactly right. Just like we showed in the previous clip from earlier. This isn't thinking. This isn't news. This isn't journalism. This is, hey, go look up what this other news company said. Hey, you know what? Let's show what is Tulsi Gabbard's mentions in U.S. cable news. I'm sure we'll get a very different graph. This means nothing. This is guilt by association. This is not journalism, guys.
Okay, so again,
actually, also we have a super chat too.
We did get a super chat. Hold on, let me go read it. Unknown space pioneer. Who is Putin's buddy? ? Well, I don't know who's Putin's buddy.
Well, you know
is.
what? And I gotta say one more thing.
Hillary Clinton is.
I'm gonna steal it back from you for a second and say this. if you talk to Russian reporters who don't like Putin, you know what they say? They say the worst thing that's happening is happening, and that is the U.S. is blaming everything on Russia, which means Putin gets to say, look at how powerful I am. Look at what I can do. I can make the United States quake in its boots, and we all know that's horseshit.
Yep.
He can't do any of that, but the U.S. is giving him this power, and the U.S. is using it like a transaction to attack people they don't like.
Well, see, this is the problem of the 2016 election cycle. This is the problem when the DNC committed election fraud. This is the problem of promoting a conspiracy theory such as Russiagate. And once again, corporate media fails to do its job because corporate media is all about dollars. They don't care about consequences or repercussions. They're willing to silence progressives and independents. They're willing to do media blackouts on Bernie Sanders. They're willing to silence and smear Tulsi Gabbard and say that she's a Russian asset and all this other bullcrap. They're willing to give Hillary Clinton an open platform. And then on top of that, the DNC, the mainstream media in 2016 and even now are willing to pay undivided attention to Donald Trump. They gave more airtime to his empty podium in 2016 than Bernie Sanders had any chance of really speaking out his message in 2016. So this is the problem with corporate media, and this is why independent media is here. This is why we exist, because now more than ever, we got to get money out of politics, and we have to create an independent media network that's going to bring truth to power. Eric, what's the final word?
I'm just over this whole story with Russia. It's just for
Russia.
For Russia. It's just to get viewers. It's just to because I guess it's a profit making thing. I don't know. It's a total waste of time. They are trying to project themselves onto Russia. They want to distract everyone from what happened in 2016 and what how undemocratic our society is. We live in a corporate dictatorship, and they want to distract you from that. And the corporate news media is controlled by a corporate dictatorship. So that's why we're not getting real news. We are getting the United States is a very propagandized nation, probably one of the most, if not the most. So that's why we're saying things like that. And Julian Reed is a corporate tool for the corporate state. So that's why she's on MSNBC or whatever. And
see, here's the thing too. Tulsi Gabbard had the courage to call out Clinton. Tulsi Gabbard had the courage to step down from the DNC. Tulsi Gabbard had the courage to really step up against the likes of Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg and that village idiot Tim Ryan. Tulsi Gabbard is the one who did it. Tulsi Gabbard shows backbone. And ask yourself this, with all the smears that's happening towards Tulsi Gabbard, and I don't care what your political affiliation is, could your representative in the United States Congress or in the United States Senate do what Tulsi Gabbard did and step down? You think they have the backbone to do that, to call out the establishment? I don't think so.
I'm going to leave one final word on this. Let's rethink in a bigger picture outside the box that's been laid before us. Who really is a Russian asset, since that's such a big thing? It's an important thing right now. Is it the people who are polling at a few percent currently in the Democratic primary? Is it the enemies, the weak people that aren't in power in the U.S.? Or is it the people that are propagating it the most, the NBCs of the world, the CNNs, who are literally giving Putin enormous amounts of power and reputation that he hasn't earned, that he doesn't deserve, to the people in government who, just like McCarthy before them, I should say, are saying anything that's not in our control, anyone that doesn't agree with us is a Russian. Just like, the neighbor's dog who's crapping on your yard is a commie. It's the same exact thing. It's just taking people that are already primed for this and just repriming them again. Yep. Because when you have to blame, when people in power explain to people who are at mid-power that the problem is people that are in even less power, it's what they say. It's like when the rich tell the middle class that the poor is the issue that they all need to fight.
Yeah.
Well, that's the situation we're in. And right now we have the powerful saying that to the people in the middle class that Russia is responsible for everything. So take with it as you will.